Alright, we're going to be looking at the Halloween Gambit from the 4-9 variation. Ooh, spooky! Alright, so the 4-9 starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, and knight f6. Halloween Gambit is knight takes e5. We accept the Gambit, and white plays d4. Now we come at a crossroads, knight g6 and knight c6. Both have their pluses and minuses when we compare the two moves to each other. Knight g6 is the engine's preferred move, scoring at nearly -2 compared to -1 with knight c6. But the reason why we're going to play knight c6 is there are a lot less lines to learn in this variation. And it's not very practical to play knight g6 and learn all these lines when you will rarely play the opening. So knight c6, and now white's two moves is e5 and d5. d5 is the main line, but we'll look at e5 first. The reason why it gets played is after g8, bishop c4. It can be tricky unless you know the refutation, which is d5. We are sacrificing a pawn, but in exchange for some time. And obviously we are still up +2 materially, so we're obviously not giving away our advantage by giving the pawn. So as we sacrifice the pawn, we open up space for our bishop, and we have a lot more freedom to move our pieces. So the knight comes to e7, trying to trade the bad knight for the good bishop. We want to trade pieces, especially this bishop, because it peters out their attack, and they do have the space advantage. And when you don't have the space advantage, it's good to trade pieces off. And obviously, as pieces come off, our material advantage is more substantial. So white pins our knight with g5, bishop g5, and we bring our bishop to f5. And our queen will come to d7, and we'll have the better position. So Mulligan gives bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6, king takes castle, and queen d7. So there's not a lot to learn with e5, knight g8, bishop c4, d5, sacrificing the pawn for, development and time. Knight g7, bishop g5, bishop f5, and the bishop is on a nice square there. Bishop takes e6, king takes castle, queen d7. And obviously it's better to play bishop f5 first instead of queen d7 because the bishop looks a lot more trapped otherwise. So let's go for that line quickly, one more time. e5, knight g8, bishop c4, d5, bishop takes d5, knight g7, bishop g5, bishop f5, bishop takes c6, check, b takes c6, king takes castle, queen d7. King takes castle, queen d7. Yeah, so d5 is really good because it is aggressive, so it forces black to play into this line, so there is less theory to learn. Alright, so let's look at, instead of e5, we're going to look at d5, the main line. So after d5, the most important line in the variation that you need to learn is bishop b4. This variation that Mulligan gives is really good, in my opinion, because it is very forcing. So there isn't many lines to learn, which is great against an opening that is quite tricky and an opening that you might not face often. So d takes c6, and knight takes e4, queen d4. Obviously, we're doubling up on the knight. The queen protects the knight, adds another defender, and it attacks our bishop and knight. Queen e7. Multi-purpose move, protects our pieces, and it threatens the discovered check with the knight because it's on the same file as the king. So the two moves that Polygon gives is bishop e3 and queen takes g7. Bishop e3 being the main line, so we'll look at queen g7 first. Obviously the queen attacks the rook, but proactively we take the knight, give check. Forces white to play bishop e3. Yeah, so as the line goes on and the more lines we show, it just shows how forcing and how practical this line is to learn. After bishop e3, we go knight e4 check. It's not the end of the world if you play knight d5 check and c3. So two pieces are being attacked right now. Our rook on h8 and our bishop on b4. And obviously we can't. We have a lot more trouble in store for us if we don't defend our rook. So it comes to f8. And after pawn takes b4, queen takes b4, king d1, d takes c6. Polygon ends it here and tells us that black is better, which I agree. So both kings are in open files, but on our open file it is blocked by the bishop and the knight. The white king does not have that same privilege. And I think it's a lot easier for white's pieces to come out, and to good squares as well. Get the bishop out to g4, and then we can bring our rook to d8. And for white, it's not so clear where the bishop goes. Obviously, the rook comes to e4, and also the knight is really good as well because it stops the bishop going to h6 because of the knight check. Okay, so let's just have a look at that line real quickly. So d5, the important line, the important move, bishop e4, d takes c6, knight takes e4, queen d4, queen e7, queen takes g7. All of this very forcing. Knight takes e3 check, bishop e3, knight e4 check, c3, rook f8, c takes b4, queen takes b4, check, king d1, d takes c6. Let's quickly have a look at that. Yeah. So let's have a look at bishop e3. I also want to briefly mention instead of bishop e3, bishop e2, but both moves serve the purpose of blocking the discovered check. So I think if your opponent plays bishop e2, you can just play the moves in the bishop e3 variation. So Polygon gives knight takes c3, staying with the trend of forcing moves. And Polygon gives the main line as a3, but I'm just going to look at b takes c3 because the engines prefer it, and also I think at your level it would be the move that most players would play. So after pawn takes knight, our bishop is being attacked, and it makes sense to come to d6. On a5, you're just looking at the pawn that's defended by the queen. On a3, it's not looking at anything, and on d6, it's looking at the king side, the queen side, and attacking central squares. So yeah, and black plays c takes b7, and we take bishop b7, and then rook b1. Obviously they take on b7 with their pawn, because that is the best way to get to lose that pawn. Obviously they don't lose it, but because it's equal trade. But if it didn't take on b7, obviously we could take on the pawn with our d pawn, and we'd have a nice position in black. But after bishop b7 and rook b1, our bishop is being attacked, and then we just bring it to c6, keep it on the line, nice diagonal, it's nice and protected. And also Not that it needs loads of protection, but with a bishop on c6, it does defend the b7 square, so no rook trouble here. And now queen takes g7, staying with the forcing lines, and then bishop e5. And that's all you really need to learn, because after the queen moves, the bishop will take on c3, and the engines give it an equal game, but practically black has the better chances. So yeah, we'll go through it a few more times and then we'll end it there. So bishop b4, so knight c6, d5, bishop e4, d takes c6, knight takes e4, queen d4, queen e7, bishop e3, knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop d6, c takes b7, bishop takes b7, rook b1, bishop c6, queen takes g7, and then bishop e5, defending the rook. Obviously played rook at f8, it's not as proactive, so. And then after the queen moves, so Bolligan says queen g5, bishop takes c3, and then yeah, king d1, and queen g5. And yeah, yeah, I'd say yeah, black's position is a lot better. The H rook will come to the G file, and we'll create some space for our king, and then we'll get the A rook out. But yeah, the Halloween Gambit is very tricky. So 96 is a very practical, low theory option. Because if you don't know what you're doing against the Halloween Gambit, you will end up in trouble. I hope you enjoy, Alice. I love you.